Now, by default, you will see there are two layout components that you will see in the form. The first one is the panel, and inside the panel, we have two columns, right? So these are the two layout components. So whenever we create a form, the first thing is we need to add a panel, and inside the panel, we will be adding the components. Right. So by default, you will see a panel and the two columns added to a panel. Now, since this is where you'll be creating the form, so what we'll do is we'll place the cursor over here, right? You can see, and as you place the cursor on the panel component, you will see the settings icon, right? A gear icon. So you'll click on that, right? The moment you click on the gear icon, you will see the panel component settings screen, right? Now here you can name what should be the title of your form. So I will name it as project management form, right? And I'll just click on save. So what you've done is you've given the title of the form, right? Now
Yeah.
moving to the column part. So whenever you want to add components, right, you need to decide how many columns are you going to have in the form. You decide the layout. How are you going to add the components, whether it will be a single row or it will have two columns, right? So for that, we have a column component, since you can see that this is added by default. So we'll play as you place the cursor on the column component, you will also see the gear icon for that particular component. You will click on that and it will take you to the settings screen of the column component, right? Now, here you will be adding like how many columns do you want in a form? Say I want to have three columns. So I'll just click on add column. Now the catch over here is the width of the column should always be 12, right? So in case I've added one more column, say three columns I'm using, I need to adjust the width as 4, 4, and 4. And when I click on save, you see that there are three columns added, right? So currently what we'll do is we'll use only two columns and we will add components to these two columns only, right? So I'll just make the width as 6 again and click on save, right?
I've got a question real quick. Mike, are you
Yes.
following along with this as well?
I
In your
am. I
instance?
am only. I mean, I'm not actually creating the forms. It's going rather fast for me to follow and
Agreed. My question, I guess, is I'm under administration,
Mhm.
and should I be seeing exactly what you're seeing as well? Should I
that's I
see?
think a catch. I think that there's roles, and your role will determine what you're able to see.
Mm,
Yes, you need to have maybe the admin rights for it.
I'll change this. I'll
Yes.
just add it to your role real quick.
okay, because yeah,
In
I
I
can
do
go
not
terms,
see
slow. I
Form
can go
Builder.
slow in case you want to follow it uh, and you want to create a form at your end. So I can just go slow.
Thank you. I
edit.
don't think I need to necessarily create the form with you. I just want to be able to toggle through and hit the same screens you're hitting so that
Okay.
I can get
Okay.
familiar.
Okay.
I'm gonna put admin. There's a few. You can have multiple roles, Dan. I think we initially just had you as quality manager, but
Mhm.
now I'm adding admin as well, and that
Yeah.
should
So for the
give you
trainings,
the
what you
ability.
can do is you can assign admin rights to all the attendees. Yeah. And later on, you can change it. Then.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess they need to refresh their all.
Not to hold up the training, we'll just continue on. Mike, you and I can work on this after
I got
when
it. You have
we have a
admin now,
chance.
but you should be able to refresh and go.
Yeah,
But
thank you.
yeah, we'll dig into this. I think if anything too, what could be challenging right now is that it's context. It's no understanding that everything within the software It's really based on forms and who has access to these forms.
Correct.
Um, and maybe even showing us what some of the forms look like before we jump in and just create one.
Okay.
I don't know if that would be helpful for you, Dan.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. I think that would be kind of a neat approach as well.
Okay. Okay. So I started with creation of forms because I wanted to take you through the components that we have.
Okay.
And once we are done with all the components, then we will go back to how to edit an existing form.
Okay. Let's do that.
Yeah. So that's why I started with the this creation of the new form. So what
Okay.
we can do is once we are at the end of the training, we'll do a hands-on training where we'll be teaching you how to create a form at your end, right? So I guess that will be helpful.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Now coming to the components part, right? So whenever you want to add any component to the form, so we have a list of components at the left-hand side. So we have categorized into basic components, special components, right? Now, in case you want to add a date time component to a form, right? So there are different component types that are available on the left-hand side under the component list. Based on your needs, you will be just using dragging and dropping those components onto this form, right? Now, the first field that we're going to add to this particular form is the serial number. The first thing that we need, right? So under special components, we have serial number, right? We'll be dragging and dropping the serial number component into the first column, right? And you will see the component, the setting screen for this serial number, right? You don't need to do anything. You can just click on save, right? So it will dynamically create a serial number for you, right? So this is the first component that we're going to add. Now, the second component that we're going to add is a text field, which we name it as project name. So you go to the basic component, drag and drop this text field onto the second column. Again, but once you drag and drop the settings screen, you'll see a pop-up screen. So this will be the settings screen for that particular component. Now, the first thing that we need to change is the label. So you will name it as project name, right? Now, we have different tabs available for the settings screen. So in case you want to display any default value, you can just name it there. So we leave it as blank, right? Then comes a validation tab. Like if you want to make this as a required field, a mandatory field, you just check this required checkbox, right? And then you define like what will be the minimum length of characters and maximum length of characters for this particular component. So we keep it as minimum length is 3 and maximum as 50. Right. Now moving on to the next tab. Next tab is the property key. Every component is associated with a key which is automatically generated by the system. So whatever display name that you'll enter over here, the key will be generated by that. Right? You just remove a space and it will generate a property key. Now, what is the use of this property key? Right. So there are certain scenarios where we want to reference another form field into your form, right? So for whenever you're referencing a field from another form, we will always reference it using the property key. This we'll see later, right? But you have to remember this, that this is a very important part whenever you want to use or reference another field from reference a field from another form, right? So we have this property key. So it will be automatically generated by the system. Now, if there's any condition associated with this component that you want to hide this component, show this component based on certain conditions, you can always add a condition to it, right? So for now, we will leave it as blank and click on save. So you can see that we have added a text field, right? And we have kept it as mandatory, right? Now, the second field that we add to this form, the third field we are going to add to this form is the text area, where we'll drag and drop the text area field onto the first column. We will name it as project description, right? Again, if you go to the validation part, we will add the validation for this, and we can name it as, we can put the maximum length as 150 characters, right? And rest of the things will remain the same. Yeah, and I click on save. So you can see that how easy it is to add the component to the form, to just drag and drop these fields over here. Now we'll add a date field, right? So we have a component as date time component. So suppose we want to add a project start date to it. We'll name it as start date, right? Since we want only the start date, we will disable time over here. So it will not show the time. So we will just click on save, right? So here we have added a start date and end date for the project. Similarly, we'll add one more date component. We will name it as end date. And now there is a feature where you can disable time. It will show only the date part. You will just select that checkbox and click on save. Right? So we have created a basic form over here. Now, moving on to the e-signature components, right? So there's an e-signature component in case you want the signature of any of the approving authority. You want to add this component. This also you can just drag and drop it over here. And you just click on save. Right. Now moving on to there are two components. One, the data component and the grid components. Right. So we'll first start with the grid component, which is the data grid. Now, if you want to create a table in the given form, right? So you will always use a data grid. Whenever you want to add a table or you want to display the data in the tabular form, you will be using this data grid component. So where are we using this component, data grid? So if you go to your QMS and you go to HR, right? So there's something called idle competence screen. You click on add name, right? And then you see that you're adding competence type. So this format where you're adding a table, right? You are showing the data in the tabular form. So whenever you have this kind of requirement, you will always use the data grid component, right? So what we'll do is we'll try adding a data grid over here, right? So we'll just drag and drop this data grid inside the panel, but it is outside the column. So I'll just leave it and it will show me the settings screen for the data grid. Right, I will name it as project team members. Right, and click on save. So what we are trying to do is we are creating a grid where we can add add the employees that will be involved in this particular project. Right. Now, in the grid component, so the first field that we're going to add is this serial sequence number, right? So you'll always remember whenever you are using any of the grid components and you have to add a sequence or a serial number, you will always use the sequence number of the grid component. So what you need to do is you'll just drag and drop the sequence number onto the blue part and just leave it. And you can just name it as, change the label as sequence number and click on save. Right? Now the second component that we are going to add is the list of employees. Now, whatever list of employees or all the employees that you've added into the system, right, will be displayed under the employee list box, right? So this is a select box which will list all the employees that have been added into the system. So to add a employee select box, so you just have to go to the data component and there's this component available. You just have to drag and drop this employee list component, this next to the serial number, right? And you don't need to do anything, just click on save. Similarly, we have the department list. So whatever departments that you will be adding into the system, right? So, and you want that all the departments should be listed as a select box. So in that case, there's a department list component which will pick all the departments that you've added into the system. You just have to drag and drop this department component next to the employee and click on save. Right? So we have created a basic form. Now what we'll do is we'll just add a file component to it. So file component will be available under the special components, right? So what we'll do is so this is the file component. So any attachments that you want to add to a given form. So for that, we'll be using a supporting file component where it is available under the special component. We'll be just dragging and dropping this file component below the grid. Just leave it there and you can just name it as supporting file sequence. This is, you can see we've created a basic form, right? And now we'll just click on save. Right. So once you have saved it, you can see the form over here, right? It will be listed under the form builder, right? Now, before we proceed further, I'll just take you how to do changes to an existing forms. Now, as I said earlier, all the forms that you've created that are already been created or all the pre-configured forms will be available under form builder to do any kind of changes to that particular form, right? So like in case you want changes to your context of organization form, right? So you will just select that form, context of organization, right? And you can see that it will be available under the in a editable format, right? I'll just show you how it looks like the pre-configured form. When you click on add name, you will see this is the form that has been you'll see pre-configured one. Now you say that I want to make changes to the given form and I want to add employee list to this form.
Jenna, can we pause for a second? Can you show me how you found that in Form Builder? I'm only seeing one form in our Form Builder.
You're not able to see other forms.
No, I just see customer response.
Context you're not able to see. Can you just share your screen so that I can
Sure.
just. Can you just go to the search and just reset it?
Okay.
Yeah. And now you search for the context.
I
Just
see
type
now. I should have them all.
yes.
Form name, context.
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you can click on edit to edit this form. Yes. So what we can do is just stay on this form. Just do one thing. Just drag and drop one of the fields, say a text field to this form. Just drag and drop a text field to this form. Yes. First column, not here. Cancel it. in the first column, inside the first column, below the department. Yes, yes. Just name it as test. Yeah, and click on save. Now go to the context form under QMS. Just save this form first. Now go to QMS. Click on add new. Add new at the right. Go to the context. Yeah, right. We have add new button on the right hand side. Yes, you can see this test field.
Yep.
So any changes that you would want to do or any additional fields that you want to do, you have to edit that form and you can add or remove any field to the given form.
What about dragging and dropping within that column? Is it where you have to delete, remove, then add if you wanted it in a certain sequence? Could you change up the sequence, I guess is what I'm saying. Serial number, department, such and such.
So what you're trying to say is the
Like if,
sequence of the
yeah, if I wanted to move serial number and department, like swap those two positions, how do I do that, or can I
so
do that?
you just have to drag and drop. You will just drag department up and you'll pull serial number down.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just share my screen. So in case you want to remove it, you have to go again to the form builder, go to the context, click on edit, and then you can just cancel the test field. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Now this is the first step for creation. Coming back to the creation of new forms, right? Now this is the first step. What we have done is we have created a basic form, right? Now every form that you create should have a workflow associated with it. So whenever you will click on any of the forms, you will see at the top there's a workflow, right? So in Form Builder, if you're creating any form with respect to that form, the second step is you need to create a workflow, right? So what we'll do is we'll create a workflow for the project management form that we have created. So for that, we'll go to Workflow Builder, right? Click on Add New, and we'll enter the same name as Project Management Vector, right? The same form that you've given in the form builder. We'll name it as Project Management Vector, and we'll give the version number. Since it is a new workflow, we'll give the version number as 1.0, right? Now, here, when you go down, so this is the area where you'll be creating the workflow, right? So this is the workflow editor section where you, on the left-hand side, you will see various components. And by default, you will see a start component on this particular uh, workflow editor screen, right? Now, this is the start component. So every workflow should have a start and end event. So this is the start event, which is there by default. You will click on this event component, right? The moment you click on this event, on the right-hand side, you will see two tabs, right? The general and details. And under the details, you will be selecting, like you'll be telling the system for which form we are creating this workflow. So what we'll do is we will go to the project management. We'll select project management vector form, right? Because we are creating workflow for this particular form. We'll select this form, make this as editable since we want to create, we want to enter the data into the form. So we want to make it editable. And once you have done this, you will just click on plus to add this form. right? So this you'll see the form name is appended by Y. This means it is editable. If you uncheck this and then you add this, it will be appended by N, right? That is non-editable. The form is non-editable, right? So what we are doing is at the start event, we are telling the system that this is the form for which we are creating this workflow. And whenever you click on the start event, you will see the components, rest of the components, right? So that you can add the next component to the start. Since it is a simple workflow, so what we will do is to the start event, we'll just append the end event and we will finish the workflow over here. So it will just have a start and end. So what you will be doing is you just add data to the form, click on submit, and the process ends there. Right? This is the simple workflow that we will be creating. Right? Now, when you click on this blank screen, every workflow is associated with an ID. Right? So whenever you create a workflow, any workflow, by default, the system will give you a ID as process_1. So there might be a possibility that you already there is a workflow with this process with this particular ID. So what you do is you can give your own ID, or you can name it as you can enter any, you can name it as PMB_1. So this is the ID that we have given to this workflow. And then you click on save, right? So what we have done is we've created a basic workflow,
What
right?
would have happened if we did not create that workflow?
I was just going to ask that.
So if you don't create a workflow, then the form, you won't be able to add the form under this menu navigation. How will you render the form? So it
Hmm.
will not get rendered until and unless you follow the whole process.
Okay.
Right? So this is the second step. The first is we create form. Second is we create the workflow of the given form, which will, so this is a simple workflow, but workflow, if you talk about the workflow, it is a whole process flow chart where you'll be deciding whether the next step would be an approval task or not, whether this form will go for a review, who will be reviewing it, right? So the whole process flow
Sure.
chart will be created in the workflow builder,
I think
right?
it's still it's context that I think I'm still challenged by. These are just honestly right now they're arbitrary concepts. I don't see the applicability, and I end up having more questions that I think are going to derail your training. For example, we clicked on whether or not it's editable. What
Mhm.
is that even? What is the
I'll tell you.
form editable or is the
Yes,
workflow editable? What if we
yes,
didn't click it as editable?
yes. If you don't click it, then when you click on this add new, right? So this form will be uneditable. It will be redoing. You won't be able to add any data to it. So that means the form is not editable.
Okay, so the workflow determines whether or not the actual form can be
Filled out.
used.
Yes,
I see. Okay. So
right?
that's why you have to at least create that very basic workflow,
Correct.
the start and the end. Okay,
Yes, yes. And it will be displayed like this at the top. So what we
gotcha.
have done is we have just added this component and the end event.
Okay.
So we have not added these in between. We've created a basic workflow.
I have a question. So that
Yes.
basic workflow that we created, like I know we're trying to conserve time right now, but if we had to get a form out quickly, in order for that form to be editable and or fillable, um,
Mhm.
you have to have a workflow, is my understanding. Can
Yes,
that workflow be as simple as just start and finish, like you showed us there, just to get that form through until we can come back and make final edits to it?
yes,
Okay.
yes. So every time you can edit this workflow and you keep changing the version number,
Okay.
right? So I want, say, I want to come back to this workflow. and I say I want to add a task in between, right? I will do the changes and then I will make the version number as 2.0. Right. So we'll come back to it to this part as well as we proceed further because we'll be adding more components to the workflow. We'll be adding more components to the form as well.
Okay.
Right? So just to make it simpler, right? So in day one training, because it will be then confusing for you. So we've created a basic form, basic workflow, and then we'll take you to the how you can configure this
Okay.
workflow, right? So with respect to form and workflow, I hope it is clear. We've created a form, we've created a workflow with respect to the form. Now we go to the workflow master screen, which is the configuration screen, right? Here you will be configuring your work, right? So when we say the configuration part, right? So you will click on add new, it will take you to the workflow master screen. Here also you will be using the same name to avoid confusion. You can just name it as project management vector, right? You can use the same code PMV01, right? So these are the two mandatory fields, right? Now, as you go down, then comes your start workflow. Like what will trigger when you click on add new, right? When you click on add new, system should know which workflow to trigger, correct? So here in the configuration screen, we are telling that when the user will click on add new, it should trigger this work that we've created just now, correct? So in this configuration screen, you will be configuring all the edit workflows, right? You see this edit, archive, view. So for every action that you perform, you need to create a separate workflow for it, right? For edit and archive. So what we are currently doing is we're just configuring the add new workflow over here. So here we are just configuring what should be the start workflow. When the user click on it, add new, the project management vector workflow will get triggered, right? And then you click on save, right? Now, when you click on save, it will take you to the next configuration screen, which is a record view. Now, what are the record views? Now, you click on view, right? So this is a record view where you can view the records. So when you click on view, you can see the data of the form that what data you entered, right? So in this workflow action screen, you just enter it as the view. There's already a workflow configured in the system. You just need to select the workflow type as view, right? And then you select what data you want to see on the view screen. The system gives you the flexibility where you can decide that when you click on view, what all fields you want to see on the view screen. Say you want to see the serial number, description, project name, start date, and end date only. Only these fields you want to see, right? And once you have selected that, then you click on save. Once you click on save, it will take you to the next configuration screen, which is the index view, right? So what is index view? Where you tell the system, this is your index view. So you can actually configure what columns you want to see here on the index view, right? Say with respect to project management, say first I'll name this view as default. Every time you click on the given form from the left menu navigation, it will give you the default index view. You can just make it a default. And then you want to decide what columns you want to see in the index. Say you want to see only serial number, project name, start date, and end date. That's it. So you have configured your index. And then click on save. Once you click on save, it will take you to the next configuration screen, which is the menu navigation, where you decide where you want to place this form, the project management form. So you can select any of the modules, or you want to select keep it under QMS, you can just click on this. Or if you want to keep it under context, just click on the parent context of organization link, and then you can see that it got added under context of organization, right? So you can just click on save.
In this view here, is there a way for us to add a new folder or?
So you can just add it directly over here, right? Or you can just place it under QMS. If you see.
Okay.
And what we have done is we just place it under context, right? Now we'll click on save. Right, we'll cancel the chart settings, right? And now we'll go to the form where we have placed this form. We'll go to the context of organization. So under context, you can see that there is form added project management vector, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll just click on this. On the right hand side, you will see your index view. We had selected serial number, project name, start date, end date, correct? Then when you click on add new, it will take you to the form that you've created, where you can name it as test form, test project. You can select the start date, select end date. Okay? If you want to add any signatures, you can do that. And then you want to select who all other team members. We click on add more, and you can select employees, and you can select their departments. Right? And if you want to upload any supporting file to this form, you can upload it from here. And you want to see the workflow at the top, you will see the workflow, start and end, simple workflow, right? And you click on submit. So did you get an idea like why did we go through these 3 steps? First is the form creation. Second is the workflow creation for a given form. Third, workflow master is the configuration screen where you'll be configuring your index views, your views, right? If you click on view, it will take you to the view screen. So in case you want to go to the configuration screen, you can go from here as well. So there is something called workflow master settings. So in case I want to go to my index view, record views, I'll go there and I'll expand it, and then I'll select again the start date, end date, and click on save. So now I'll go to the form again and click on view. You can see the data. Hope this is clear.
I've got a question. What about an existing form that I've created already that's in PDF, and I wanted to bring that into this QMS? Do I have to recreate that through the steps that we just did from start to finish, or can I
Yes.
Bring that in and then we add these different rules and workflows and such with an existing template that I've already built?
So whatever template that you have, you need to create it manually using the form builder,
Got it. Okay.
right? So you just have to go and keep adding the components that are there in your template, and then you create it. And then once you've created the form, you have to go to the workflow builder and create the workflow and configure that workflow in the master script,
Okay. Thank you.
right? So this was a basic form that we had created. So do you want me to take it further, or you want me to stop here and take it tomorrow?
Um, I think the part that I is not clear to me was the workflow master. I
Okay.
understand the builder, but if we can just walk through that again.
Yes, sure. So workflow builder is where we create the workflow. So let me just take you
Right.
an example of an existing workflow that we've created, right? So suppose there's a context of organization, you click on add new and you see at the top, this is the workflow, right? So in case you want to see the workflow with respect to context, you just name it as context. You go to the workflow builder, search for the context workflow and click on search, right? Now you will see there are 4 workflows that you see, right? So now whatever action that you perform on a given record is associated with a workflow. You will see that there's for edit, there's a separate workflow. When you click on archive, there is a separate workflow. And when you raise a change request, there is a separate workflow. And this is for creation of the record, the add new workflow. Correct? So you click on edit and it will show you the workflow for the context, the current workflow, right? Now, what does the workflow tell you? This is more like a process flow chart. So what is the first step that we are doing? When we click on add new, it will take you to the context of organization form, right? We are entering the details over here and clicking on submit. So this is the first step, right? Now, when you click on submit, automatically the approval status of that record will change to pending, right? So there's a script task associated with it, with this workflow. So you don't need to worry about the script task, because if you add any workflow and if there's this kind of requirement, so our tech team would be assisting you with that, right? Then comes the email notification, right? Now, by default, the email notification will go to the uh, approver of the given record. Now, who's the approver? Approver in this case is ISO manager and admin. The users having these 2 roles will receive the notification. Is this clear? Now, when these users will receive the notification, they will receive the system notification at the top, the notification that you see at the top. They will then log into the system, right? And they have 3 options. So when they click on complete, they'll receive an approval request like this, and they will click on complete to complete the required task. Right now, they have 3 options. Either they can approve it, reject it, or if they need any changes, they need to mark it as pending. Now, if they approve it, right, once it has been approved, so it will send a notification to the creator of the record, the one who had initiated it, that the approval request has been approved, right? So how the system will know that to whom we need to send this notification, that is there under the notification that we've created under notification builder. So it will be more clear when we'll be covering the how to create the notification and how to configure the notification in the workflow, right? So this is how you are defining the workflow, because the system should know whenever you are doing any step, what should be the next step, whether the process is going to end here or it will go further for any review, approval, or any of the other tasks. So that is why we require workflow with respect to every form.
Great. Thank you. This is helpful. What I was asking about was the workflow master.
Yes. Now coming to the workflow master. So consider workflow master as a configuration screen, right? Where you will be configuring your workflows, where you'll be configuring, because what happens is you create form. In workflow, you have configured the forms, right? Where we're telling the system, okay, for this particular form, we are creating this workflow. Now, the third step is you're telling the system that when you click on this and add new link, which workflow field which should get triggered, right? So this is more of a configuration screen that you see over here, workflow master, right? So whenever you're configuring, you'll first go to workflow master, enter what is the name, the code and all, right? And under the add new section, you configure the workflow. Right? Now there is a enable, there are other features as well, say auto save. So you're working on this form, right? You want that this form should be saved after to save your data. It should perform an auto save, right? After every 30 seconds. So there's an enable autosave feature. You check this and you say that save the auto recover information every 30 seconds. So if you enter that and you're working on the given form, after every 30 seconds, the form will get saved and it will be available under the draft view.
So
Right?
then the workflow master is how that form is handled on.
Yes.
Okay. So then if I wanted to change that workflow on a said form, I could go into workflow master and change that to any different workflow that I've pre-established earlier.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Correct. So what you need to do is, suppose you say that I want to change a workflow for this project management vector, right?
Mm-hmm.
You did certain changes and you every time you do any changes to the workflow, the version number, the system will ask you to change the version number,
Okay.
right? So if you have done make any changes, say you have added approval flow, right? So once when you save the workflow, the system will say, it will give you an error message that you need to change the version number. You did the changes, right? And you name it as version 2.0, right? Now, whenever you do any changes to the workflow builder, you will then again have to go to the workflow master and you have to update the version number under the workflow to reflect those changes in the system,
Okay.
right?
Thank you.
So if you've done any changes, you'll be selecting project management vector 2.0, right?
And
And when one,
that's forced, correct? You can't
sorry,
leave it one dot. It's a forced trigger. You can't leave it at 1.0 just for.
so this won't be forced. This you have to remember. System it won't tell you that, okay, you have updated the workflow, you need to update the workflow master. You
Okay.
have to go to the workflow master and you should remember that, okay, if you've done any changes over here, then you need to change the workflow version in the work configuration screen as well.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yes. So this is the whole workflow that you need to remember. So just for your help, so under help, we have this administration user guide. These are very helpful user guides where you can see all the component. Uh, we have textual guides with respect to form builder, workflow builder. If you go to the form builder, right, you will see all the components, right? How to remove it, edit a component, adding a form component, right? Also, we have user guide videos where you can add scenarios, right? You can see the different scenario section where you can create a basic flow, right? Where you can,
Great.
yeah, you can see
That's going to come in
how,
handy. Thank you.
yes,
I do have a hard stop. I have another meeting to join here.
no
I don't mean
problem,
to cut you
no
short,
problem,
but I have to get ready for this next one that I'm
no
going to be
problem.
hopping on here.
Yeah, so we'll end this over here only. So tomorrow, one of our technical team members would be taking the training the rest of the 2 days, right? So they'll be taking this training, right? So to give you more idea wherever, in case if there's any programming required in certain sections, so they'll be taking you through the rest of the features. So tomorrow we'll be adding few more components in the form, few more workflow components, and then we'll start with the notification number.
One question I do have is, are they going to be helping us understand how to upload our directory of folks that need to be in here, our personnel, our departments, our verticals, things like that?
Okay, so you need import assistance, importing your data into the system.
Yeah, in order to get all of our key players in the system. Yeah.
Yes, so you can discuss it with them tomorrow. End of the training, you can discuss like if you have any requirements, and yes, they would be assisting with the import.
Okay, great.
Yeah?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day. Thanks.
Yeah, you too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.